green screen tutorial. Green screening is a fantastic technique used in special effects in movies where you put the actors in front of a green or a blue screen and you key out a color, that color of that background. It can be any color. It's generally green or blue because they're the furthest away from human skin tone. So that's why they're usually green or blue. Anyway, how to do this in Blender. Okay, so to do this in Blender, we are going to be using what we call the compositing panel. Now there should be these each have different layouts, these windows, which do different things. Now you can make different ones here and you can arrange them and reorganize them, but we're going to be using this compositing one. Okay, and so compositing is adding up layers of stuff on top of each other and selecting some bits and doing different things with them in an interesting way. So it's easier to actually do this and get a grasp of what you're doing, and I'll explain these as we go. Now when we're doing compositing, we are using nodes. So it says here use nodes. We're going to click on that. Now at the moment in Blender we've got two nodes that come up all the time automatically. Now we're not going to need this side window, so press N for me to get rid of that. And I'll just make them a little bit bigger for you so you can see those. Now this is render layers. Now render layers is basically what you're going to see through this camera here, okay? And if I've got like a monkey head or something like that in there. Now in the compositing, because we're doing green screen, we're not using the 3D CG aspect of this at all for this task. We might for others, but not for this task. We're going to be using green screen. So we're going to select the render layers, get rid of that. Now we do need the composite. The composite node basically is the finished product. So if we think of this like a factory line, we're doing a, well, let's say we're making cars. In this end, where we get all the raw materials, the sheets of steel, the tins of paint, the engines from the engine manufacturer, whoever's making the engine, or the components for the engine, the gearbox, all these things go over here, and then they all get jiggered together with different processes happening in the middle, and at the end it spits out the result, which in the case of a car is a car. In this case we've got two main elements, which is our two videos. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly, hopefully this will show you this. This is footage This is footage of my son when he was about 4 or 5 on my gyroplane that was under construction. And I put a very rubbish green screen over the clothesline to film him here, and this has got a lot of things wrong with it, which is why we're using it. See, there's shadows here. This one's pretty good. That's got good straight color, but this one's all wrinkly and rubbish, and that's going to make life a friggin' nightmare. Now the other problem we've got here, which we'll deal with in the second tutorial, is you can see the green screen doesn't go all the way. It's misses out here. So when we green screen this out, we're still going to have this here, but for this lesson, just green screening. And there's also bits on the thing where there's bits missing on the green screen. So we're going to have all sorts of problems with this, which is why I've chosen this one. This will be in the folder you've gotten this tutorial in, or we'll direct you where this is, but you're going to need this in a second. Okay, so we're going to add a node. So we're going to go add, and it's going to be an input node, and this one is going to be a movie clip. Now we're going to need two movie clips. We need the green screen movie clip, and the other movie clip we're going to have is I've got some drone footage, which is here. This is footage I took with my drone, and we're going to select different bits of this to use with our footage. And we are basically going to set this up so that he is flying in front of that background footage, so it'll look like he's flying. Okay. So let's get this happening. So the bottom, we need two movie clips. Now when we're duplicating, we can either just go add input and movie clip again, or we can press Shift D, which creates a duplicate movie clip. So we need these on top of each other. I'm just going to stretch those out a bit. That makes them... Okay, so I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. Probably doesn't matter much. Actually, I'll make them... it's not going to let me... Alright, okay, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we need to open up these two movies. So you can see in the clip here, we got a little open window. And I'm using... This is at home. I'm in my COVID lockdown, so I've got to do this from my home computer. Yours is going to be in the folder that you're doing this in, so I know where mine is, but we've got to find the actual green screen footage. So we're going to grab that. Actually, that's the background one, so we need to grab the drone footage first in the top one. That's the drone footage there, and we'll zoom down to the bottom one, and that's going to be the green screen footage. So you will have to go to your G drive or wherever we've saved those footages, and that one's going to be the green screen. So the green screen one's on the bottom, the drone footage is on the top, and you'll understand that in a second. So these are two inputs, so these are two raw bits of movie that we're going to be putting together. Now our video is going to be 200 frames long, so let's go down here. We've got a timeline. I'm just going to minimize that. We don't need that any bigger than that, and that'll give us a bit more room to see here. So we're going to go to our little play. This is our little render view, and this gives us our start frame and our end frame. We can also change that down here, but we need to change the end frame to 200, and I'll show you through how we're going to render this later, but that's where all the rendering stuff is going to happen. Now we want to be able to view different things. So there's a little node that we can add called a viewer, and it's an output node. So we go add output, and we go viewer. Now we're going to need a couple of viewers. We're going to need one for both of those and one at the end here to see the final product. So we're going to duplicate that with Shift D, and just a minute, I'll put screencast keys on for you. Sorry, it won't let me put screencast keys on, but anyway, it's Shift D to duplicate. So Shift then D, and I'm duplicating those two down here. These are going to be used when I'm wanting to look just at the output of this when I've got the green screen on. We'll be using that in a second, and this one's going to show you this one here. So for example, if I click this up to here and then I click on here, you can see now that my viewer is showing me the background image. Now you can see it's bigger than the whole screen. Now I can move my nodes around by zooming in and out with the middle scroll wheel of the mouse, but if I use V, which is what I want to do here, V shrinks the screen. I think it's Shift V, no, Alt V, Control V, Alt V, Alt V makes it bigger. So that's pretty much got that displaying on the whole screen, and that's what we want. Now if I hook this one up to image and click on that, you can see I can toggle between these two views. Alright, now basically what we have to do here is we have to join these two together, but before we go and do that, we're going to just work with the green screen here, and we're going to put our green screen information in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to matte, and in matte is where we've got all our chroma keying stuff. Now we need keying, yep, that one there. Alright, so matte keying. Now that's chucked that in, and you can see it's just turned to rubbish here. Alright, and that's the reason is the color it's chosen is, so I'll zoom in here and we'll have a look at this. So this is the key color. This is the color it's going to remove, and so it's removing this white color. So anything that's close to white is there. So what we're going to do is go click on this, and we can use the color picker. Now we can either color it by grabbing the key in here and seeing where it goes, and already that's pretty good, alright, but it's not terrific yet. Alright, now you can see bits of it is sort of bluish and other bits of it are kind of working. The other thing we can do with that is we can use the color picker, and we can pick a color from the green here. So if I go pick in here and say pick that color green, then that's giving me that in there. Alright, now one of the problems with this is that it's hard to see exactly, you can see I've got bits of the green screen still showing up. So what we're going to do is up here on our keying screen, you can see there's this matte. Now what the matte does is it turns it, if I click this matte and push this into the image viewer of this viewer, not the alpha, sorry, into that one, you can see it gives me this black and white illustration. Now this is really powerful, because what this means is that everything that's white is going to be included and everything that's black is going to be removed. So I'm just going to drop that down a little bit, make it a bit smaller, and move that out of the way so I can see it. So you can see it's got really good, it's working really well there, and it's working absolutely rubbish there. Now, a couple of things we can do to start with. First, all right, fiddle around with the color. See if there's an area, and see how when I've moved here to this area here, that's getting really close. Okay, that's actually pretty good. All right, so you can sometimes find an area that is cleaner. You're looking for clean edges around here, and you can also fiddle with the brightness up and down. So as you move the brightness up and down, you can get quite a clean mask. Now the trouble is, anywhere that's black is going to be removed. So I need this all to be solid white. So we're going to be, get it fairly close. So spend your first bit of time. Now don't worry so much about the back here, because there's something else we're going to do with that in our next tutorial. But in here, we do need to worry about some of this stuff. Now this is where some of these other features come into this. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in on this keying one here and show you what that does, what some of these do. Okay, there's a whole bunch of settings in here, and basically these are kind of sliding things. You can either click on these. Now what pre-blur does is when you've got an outside edge like this, I'll just show you this quickly. What it does is it blurs the edges. Now that can work to kind of clean up some of the areas, but what you're going to find is there'll be like a glowing green thing around the edge of this. So generally start with pre-blur at 0, but you may want to come back. Now screen balance, probably the best thing to do with some of these is see how when I've clicked that in, it is actually working pretty good to actually show some of those areas. And you've got de-spill factors, so what you can do is just play with these at the extremes and see what they do. If they don't seem to do anything, then probably leave them where they were. De-spill balance, not doing much in this case. Now they might. Now edge kernel basically tries to sharpen up the edges, and so you can sort of click up this and it tries to basically make these edges around here kind of distinct. So you can kick these down and up. Now you're going to find that these next two, but anyway, we can fiddle with those later. Clip black and clip white are probably the most powerful things you'll do in here. And what this will do is try and turn things that are black to fully black. So you can see what it's doing is it's trying to sort of make all of that black. So obviously I want that back fairly far. I want to clip the white back. And you can kind of fiddle around with these and try and get them to, as I said, you're trying to get this to solid color. So you're just trying to fiddle with all these settings to get a setting that somewhere in there gives you, and that's looking pretty good. Alright, so again you'll have to zoom out to the whole thing. You can see I've still got some errors in here. Right, that's bad. Get out of that. So I don't want too much black and I don't want too much white. And this is where things like the edge kernel often come in. See, edge kernel, take that down to 0. Push that fully out, no. Push that fully off, no. Alright. Now, post blur, we can try doing a few of those things. Sometimes they will fill in some of these areas. And you really do want to get this so you're getting rid of some of this. But you want to keep it minimal, because if you go too far it will create like a green glow, which won't work really well. And again, just play around with some of these things a bit. No, well, that 0, that 1. We're just trying to get this, and you may need to go back and fiddle with some of the other factors again afterwards. Right. Adjust the screen balance. Ooh, that's looking better. So I've got some, although you see as I'm clipping the black, it's clipping this area, but then it starts to get rid of things from bits I actually need. Clip white. Okay. Now that's pretty good. That's probably as good as I can hope to get it. So now that's giving us our... Now you can see these are our problem areas, and as I said, we will deal with those in our masking tutorial. And these areas back here where there's bits of the house and backyard showing, these are areas that we will deal with later. So what we can do now is if I click to viewer, you should get a, and I go from matte to image and then click to viewer. Now you can see that I've got like a clear background, and he is, and my son here, he is pretty, looking pretty good. And you can see some of the post blur there, it's not too bad. A little bit of green stuff, and it's certainly not perfect. And as I said, this is a really rubbish green screen. So to get it this good is really powerful, that we've been able to get it this good on this program. But there are problems. Okay, so far we have grabbed we've got our green screen bit sorted out. Now we need to join these together. This bit's fairly straightforward. Okay, so what we need to do now, let's go back to here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to add what we call an alpha over. And an alpha over is like a two-sided plug-in at one end that turns it into one plug at the other end. So if I go to add, we'll find that in color and alpha over. We're going to click that in there. Now you can see there's two channels here, and then a single channel that comes out here. So what we're going to do is our keyed image goes into the bottom one. That's our green screen image. Our image from here goes into the top one, which is the background image, and then this has to go into both the composite, which will render in the final video, and this one needs to go into the viewer so we can see what we're doing. So bang, there we are. He's up there and flying. Alright, and as he's going, he is flying around, all of a sudden green screen with a background in. So we're ready to turn this into a movie, but as I said, you've got some little areas here. You can see the back of the house there, and you can see some stuff here that's not where it should be. Alright, and in the next tutorial I'll show you how to sort this out, but for the moment show you how we need to render this if this is all you're doing. So first things, we need to make sure that we've got all our frame rates set. We'll leave all of these settings as they are, but when we come down here to output, we need to tell it where we want to output this video. So we're going to go here, and you will need to go to this. You're going to have a very different file path to me. I'm going to my own folder here, and I'm going to call it Room 1 to 200. Actually, I'll just call it green screen test. So call this green screen test. And at the moment, this is set to PNG, which means it's going to render 200 individual photographs. We want to turn it into a single movie, so we're going to click here. The actual PNG is very good if you're doing a lot of animation stuff, but this one will do just fine for what we are doing. We're not adding sound, although we could add sound. There is sound there, I think, but it's just me telling him what to do, and in reality we'd be putting in, you know, audio sound effects. So all we're trying to get is a clean video with no sound, so don't bother putting sound in. Alright, that's set to go, so that will be saved to your H drive, your home drive, and you will call it green screen test. Up here is the render, and all we do here is hit render animation, and it will render our video. I'll just pause it while it does that. Okay, so that's rendered out the animation, so we're going to just close the little animation window down, and we're going to go and we can now view our animation. So we're going to click on that and it should preview it, and there we go. Now you can see there's my little problem area there. I need to get rid of that, and I've got these areas here which we'll have to get rid of in the next tutorial. But you can see it works quite well. It's a pretty decent green screen, particularly considering that our background green screen was absolutely rubbish in terms of correct lighting and having a smooth background green screen. It's about as bad as a green screen as it gets. And so you can see while there's some errors in there, if you have a good smooth green screen that you're using, you can use this program to get top quality green screens, because this is about as bad as it gets as far as green screens go. Okay, thanks for watching this tutorial. Please go on to the following tutorial, which is dealing with masking, in which case we're going to make a modification to this to mask out areas that didn't work so well on the green screen. Okay, thank you.